Now, as I've said before, the capacitor 16 here discharges through the electroradiant transceiver back to the positive of the battery. Now, normally, if we just discharge this capacitor, we would discharge the high voltage positive back to the negative here. Normal discharge path would be like down through here, through this spark gap here, just back to the negative. But Gray discharges it back to the positive of the battery. Tesla clearly shows that this is not necessary to create the electroradiant event, but it is certainly part of the circuit process that Gray felt was necessary. We don't know exactly what significance it is, but it's certainly related to his idea of splitting the positive, which was a piece of jargon used early in the reporting that we didn't understand. But this is clearly what splitting the positive looked like to Gray. Clearly, this is not about recharging the battery. The voltage drop at the spark gap reduces the amount of energy that can go back to the battery to near zero. So this is not the recharging mechanism. This is probably simply about characterizing the electroradiant event in a more positive way, and in this way I mean electropositive. So now we have some grasp of where the terminology splitting the positive comes from and what its significance might be. Also that Gray claims to be only using a positive form of energy. Certainly what gets radiated out to his charge receiving grids is a positive electrostatic charge. When that is discharged to ground, he's only using the positive side of the electricity. So at least, again, everything Gray was saying makes sense. Digital close-ups of the charge receiving grid strongly suggest Gray is using copper. You can see a yellowish color in there. As we've said before, electroradiant events create electronic responses in certain metals. So Gray must have figured out that he could recreate electron movements from the primary electroradiant event if he intercepted it on copper. In other words, downstep the electroradiant event down towards more normal electricity again. In Tesla's large-scale system, he tried to get away from this effect. But in Gray's smaller system, it's just what he needed. The more we ask the electroradiant event to interact with copper again, the sooner we get back to a form of electricity that will actually charge the battery in a fairly normal way. This, then, is how to produce Edwin Gray's cold electricity. It is cold in the sense that it won't shock you. So this is how the system works. To summarize again, Gray's cold electricity circuit runs like this. It starts with power from this battery. He raises the voltage to